Hey guys, welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry, here on a Sunday. Of course, the offensive linemen are wrapping up the NFL Combine right now in Indianapolis. But today, I wanted to talk about the quarterback position because I think that my perspective on what the Steelers are planning to do at this position for next season has shifted a little bit since my last video talking about this particular topic. I do expect the Steelers to have a decision made at this position before the start of free agency, which is less than a half month away. It's just over a week away at this point. It's coming up fast. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already, because I think that there's going to be some significant development here over the next 7 days, if not just hours from now. So I want to start with this. I think the main shift that I have had in my perspective on the Steelers quarterback situation heading into next year is that on Friday at the start of the weekend, I kind of felt like my impression was that Russell Wilson was the Steelers' preference at the quarterback position. Now my perspective has changed, or I think Justin Fields is the Steelers' preference for the starting quarterback position in 2025. The reason for that shift is, number one, I think that Russell Wilson is very eager to come back and play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think that he is somebody that understands that the Pittsburgh Steelers, out of his current options, probably give him the best chance to win a Super Bowl before he retires. With the defense that they have, he loves Mike Tomlin as a head coach. He has a year of experience under his belt building chemistry with the receivers in the Steelers wide receiver room, and according to him, his best chance is to win a Super Bowl here in Pittsburgh. So I think he's willing to come back, and I think that he's willing to take less money to come back. So I think that if Russell Wilson was the Steelers' preference, I think he would have already been locked up. And I think that if the Steelers would have finished their season more strongly, if they would have won a playoff game, if they didn't have that 5-game losing skid to finish out the 2024 campaign, I think the Steelers probably would have already locked up Russell Wilson as their starting quarterback moving forward, and it would have been somewhere around $30 million per season. But because of how poorly the season ended for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I do think Pittsburgh is shifting their preferences here, and I think that they might be shifting to Justin Fields. But make no mistake here, guys, I think that the Steelers want to have their quarterback situation figured out before the start of free agency. I don't think they want to go into free agency without a quarterback option, because if they miss out on guys like Justin Fields and Sam Darnold, the guys that could be potentially hitting the market here, they might miss out on some of the better options, and they might be forced to go like the Kirk Cousins route or the Daniel Jones route. And I just don't think that that's what the Steelers want to do, at least in terms of their starting quarterback in 2025. Now, the reason why a deal between Fields and the Steelers hasn't gotten done yet is because I think that Fields' representation and his agent is kind of known as somebody that really tries to play hardball with teams and really tries to maximize the amount of money that he gets for his clients. And they play certain games in the media to be able to do that. They definitely set the asking price higher than what most teams are probably willing to pay. And, I think that right now Fields' representation has a price tag to bring back Justin Fields that the Steelers, at least right now, are not willing to pay. So even though Fields is their preferred option, in my opinion, right now, I think that the price tag is not what they want to bring him back for, which is probably a lot higher than a lot of Steelers fans are expecting with his contract. I think that Fields and his representation are probably asking for at least $20 million per season. It might even be more than that. And I'm just not sure if the Steelers are going to want to bring back Fields at that number. I think the Steelers have come to Fields and said, this is the number that we are comfortable bringing you back at. If you don't want to take this deal, we'll roll with Russell Wilson. And that's what I kind of think the dynamic is right now. I think Russ is kind of the fallback option in case Fields doesn't sign the deal that Pittsburgh has put in front of him. And Fields is saying, and his representation have not signed the deal that Pittsburgh has put in front of him because they're trying to call the Steelers' bluff. And they're trying to say, hey, we want this amount of money. If you don't want to pay us this amount, we're perfectly fine testing the open market in free agency. All right. So if you think that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to get Justin Fields for a super affordable deal, like $5 to $10 million, that's just not realistic. It's going to be somewhere like at the bare minimum, it would probably be $15 million per season. And then at the very most, I could see it even getting up to somewhere in the $25 million per season range. I do think that Fields and his representation are really trying to squeeze every last dollar that they can get out of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think that the Steelers feel like, all right, we prefer Justin Fields, but we're not going to overpay for him. All right. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to who budges first. Is Justin going to eventually say, all right, I'll sign this deal with Pittsburgh for less money than maybe what I could get on the open market with teams like the Jets, Saints, other teams that could be interested in his services? Or do the Steelers say, well, we don't really want to go with Justin, or we don't really want to go with Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, or anybody else, and we'll pay extra to get Justin Fields as our starting quarterback in 2025? In my opinion, I think the leverage in this situation, guys, does belong with the Pittsburgh Steelers, because I think they like Russell Wilson. I think that they would prefer Justin Fields because they feel like he's a good fit for the offense. They feel like he's got the higher upside. They would rather not let go of that upside, but they also don't want to overpay for him. And I think that they feel rather comfortable with Russell Wilson at the price tag that, whatever it is, $15 million or whatever it is per season for him, as opposed to overpaying for Justin Fields. And I think that the Steelers are not going to budge. I don't think the Steelers are going to pay whatever Fields' representation is currently asking for. So I think what it all comes down to here, guys, is whether or not Justin Fields decides to take the number that the Steelers are offering him. And, looking at the other options, if you're Fields, you could play with your former teammate and Garrett Wilson there with the New York Jets. I'm sure that probably strikes his interest at least a little bit. But, in terms of the infrastructure, he's not going to find a place that's more ready to win now than the Pittsburgh Steelers are. The Steelers have continuity with the coaching staff. Fields would be going into his second season with the offensive play caller. That would be the first time in his entire career that would be the case. Of course, he's got some established chemistry with the wide receivers currently in the room. And then, of course, the defense as well can certainly lower the bar for what the offense needs to do for this team to be successful. So Justin Fields has expressed that he would like to come back to the Pittsburgh Steelers, but it's just a matter of, will he accept the number that the Steelers put in front of him? And my best guess right now is that he will do that. I think it's going to stall out a little bit longer. No decisions need to be made until free agency necessarily, but I think really close to free agency. And, the legal tampering period begins on Monday, March 10th. So it's coming up here. It's March 2nd right now. So it's certainly coming up in just over a week at this point. I think that it's going to cut it close, but I think Justin Fields will eventually cave, and he will take less money to stay with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I would expect something along the lines of like 2-year, $30 million with 15 guaranteed, something like that. And I think that that's a fair number for a guy like Justin Fields. I think that's probably what the Steelers are offering him right now. But make no mistake, guys, if Justin Fields makes it to market, if he makes it past the legal tampering period, Monday, March 10th, 2 Mondays from now, I don't think he's coming back to the Pittsburgh Steelers. All right, there is a pretty hard deadline here. I think the Steelers absolutely want to have their quarterback situation figured out before free agency so that they know how much money they have to spend on cornerbacks. They know how much money they have to spend on a free agent wide receiver. They know how much money is at their disposal, and they know what quarterback they're building for. So I think the Steelers really, really want to get this done before free agency, and that's the timetable for Justin Fields to either take the Steelers offer or to test the open market and try to make more money with another football team out there. And I think it's going to be a very interesting situation here. I do think Russ is probably the fallback option. Now, in terms of some of the outside quarterback options that we've talked about on the show, we know the Steelers made a call in regards to Matthew Stafford. Apparently, the interest was not there on Stafford's part. If you ask me, I think he always just wanted to go back to LA, so the interest wasn't really going to be there for any team. Apparently, he wasn't interested in going to the Giants either. So, I think Stafford's plan all along was to get back to Los Angeles, and he got his wish. So, the Steelers did show some interest in him, but that's not a possibility anymore. And then there was a report from Benjamin Albright, who's very connected in NFL circles, who claims that the Steelers would have been in if Derek Carr hits the open market. Now, it does seem like the Saints are going to be keeping Derek Carr, so that's probably not a possibility either. But it is worth mentioning here that the Steelers have shown some interest in outside quarterback options. And, as Omar Khan said at the Combine, all options are on the table until Justin Fields or Russell Wilson re-signs with the Pittsburgh Steelers. As for Aaron Rodgers, it's another outside quarterback option that has been thrown around quite a bit, including on this channel. There hasn't been really any chatter around Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers. I mean, all the chatter and all the noise has been around Rodgers going to the New York Giants, and it seems like there's mutual interest there between Rodgers and the New York Giants themselves. So, I wouldn't be surprised, I wouldn't be shocked if early this week, especially like on Pat McAfee or something like that, there's some connections made between Rodgers and the Steelers, and, maybe the Steelers use the Rodgers possibility to try to drive down the price tag on Fields, put pressure on him, whatever the case may be. But as of right now, there's no real smoke surrounding Aaron Rodgers to the Steelers. But like I said, that could potentially change. So I think that the three most likely quarterback options at this point, number one, it's Justin Fields, because I think it's the Steelers' preference. I think that Fields' preference is the Steelers, and just like how the Matthew Stafford situation ended up with him going back to the Rams, I think that Fields will most likely end up being the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2025. That's my opinion. Number two would be Russell Wilson, and I think that Russell Wilson is the most likely option if Fields decides to test the open market. And I do think the Steelers, Fields sticks to his current price. I do think the Steelers will let him walk, and they will be good enough. They'll be good to go with Russell Wilson. They just want to make sure they get somebody under contract before free agency starts. And then I would put the third most likely quarterback option right now as Aaron Rodgers. I could certainly see him getting connected to the Steelers this week, but I think that I would put him behind both Justin Fields and Russell Wilson at this point. Now, this is the part in the video here where I'm just going to put a little disclaimer out there. Personally, in my opinion, I would rather go with a veteran quarterback option and not Justin Fields. I can see why the Steelers would like Justin Fields. He's the younger option. He's got theoretical high upside with some dynamic rushing ability, great arm talent, his ability to throw from multiple arm angles and platforms. He's a great thrower on the run as well. And I think that the Steelers' vision for him would be kind of a bootleg-heavy, outside zone, under center type of offense that really dives into the misdirection of play-action bootlegs off of outside zone action. Of course, they want to run the football a lot. I do think that Fields has to get a lot better in his mental processing, in his accuracy, in his anticipation, all the things that make him, has made him one of the least consistent down-to-down passers in the National Football League his first 4 years in the league. And personally, I think that the Steelers would be better served going with a veteran if they truly want to win now. But with that said, if the Steelers do go with Justin Fields here, as I'm expecting, that means that the Steelers currently feel like he gives them the best chance to win a Super Bowl in the next 2 years before Cam Hayward retires. Whether Steelers fans agree with it or not, this team believes that they are close to winning a championship, and they believe that potentially Justin Fields could get them there. And if he is the option that they go with, and he does sign with the Steelers to be this team's starting quarterback, they are entrusting him to win this team a Super Bowl in the next 2 years so that Cam Hayward can retire with some hardware on his finger. All right, so that's a lot of pressure, and that's a lot putting into the Justin Fields egg basket there. And then also if Fields fails heading into next year, if they bring him in, and this team has its first losing season in the Mike Tomlin era, I believe that probably means Tomlin gets fired. And, I think that this decision at quarterback is going to be massively, massively important to the future of Mike Tomlin's tenure of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So it's going to be interesting to see what they decide to do. It'll be interesting to see if Fields ends up taking the offer that the Steelers have on the table with him. And if not, it'll be interesting if the Steelers cave to his demands or if they feel good enough with Russell Wilson to go with him in 2025. So that's where I'm at with everything right now, guys. I think that Fields is the most likely option. Personally, I have my skepticisms and I have my doubts about Justin Fields, but that doesn't change the reality that I think the Steelers feel very good about him. He's obviously very mature. He's obviously got an incredible physical skill set. Obviously, Mike Tomlin really cherishes quarterback mobility, and Fields is one of the most, if not the most dynamic rusher at the position today. But at the end of the day here, guys, I think what it's going to come down to is whether Justin Fields wants to be a Steeler or not, and whether he wants to get more money with a different team. I think that's what the decision will come down to. And like I said, guys, I think at the end of the day, it's going to take probably all week, but I think by the end of the week, next weekend, somewhere around that time frame, Justin Fields will be announced as the starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And if that happens, we're going to be going live right here on Steelers Talk. We're going to be breaking down my thoughts on Fields and what this team needs to do to be successful with him. If it's Russell Wilson, we'll also go live for him. If it's Aaron Rodgers, we will also go live for him. No matter what the scenario is, we will be going live, breaking down the new starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. I really do appreciate all of your guys' support. We got more stuff coming potentially later today on the channel. If not, we'll have some stuff for you early in the morning for you guys to enjoy right here on Steelers Talk. So make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Until next time, guys, here we go, Steelers.